kind of tell where things really took off, because in 2012 is when he had this baseline shot, which is essentially nothing. And then by 2013, like, it's hard to zoom in here and actually show what I'm looking at, but you can see he's packed on like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle in that first year. What's up, guys? Derek, moreplacemordates.com. Today we're going to be talking about genetic hyper-responders in bodybuilding, or in general, I guess. So this was a post put up by Nick Strength and Power. This is yesterday by now. I've had it on my tabs for a sec here. So one day ago. Now that's a transformation. Nick Walker from his first show to now. So here he is way back, I don't know, what is this, 9 years ago approximately, when he was 17, I believe. And, you know, just looking like a very average natural bodybuilder with nothing special. You would not think this guy is a genetic freak. You would not think he's a phenom who's going to end up looking like a brick shithouse. This guy looks just like your average run-of-the-mill dude who's maybe stepping on stage at, I don't know, 170 pounds or something. So, top comment. Somewhere, Derek and his delts are chuckling gleefully at all the comments using the phrase hyper responder to gear. It's fucking baffling how many people still think it's super physiological. It's supra, guys. Supra physiological. Do you think he's leveraging pharmacology? Yes, he is using an efficacious dose of trenbolone sandwiches. So there you fucking go. Super physiological. Some deep physiology on supra. It's crazy how incredibly subpar normal genetics can turn into super freaks if they're a hyper responder to gear. So again, you've heard me talk about before how a baseline is not necessarily representative of a guy who can blow up. How many times have we seen guys with baselines who look genetically superior as fuck, but when they take gear, you know, they grow, but they do not end up nearly the size necessary to compete on a bodybuilding stage. Rather, at best, they end up, you know, that's literally the birth of the men's physique division pretty much, is guys who did not have the genetic response capable to get to a open bodybuilding stage. Now, a lot of them will, you know, argue, oh, we just don't want to take as much, we're not going to take the same drugs as them, blah, blah, blah. It's like, shut the fuck up. Like, a lot of the men's physique guys are taking the exact same shit as the open guys, or the classic guys, and they just don't respond the same. That's, you know, what it boils down to. A lot of them look sick though. You know, a lot of these open guys compared to the physique guys, like as naturals, they look, you know, similar. Sometimes the physique guys even look better as naturals. They have better foundations, but when it comes to literal pharmacology, there is a drastic difference in the response. And that's, you know, there's ultimately like different tiers of genetics in terms of your actual infrastructure, your like the way your bones are structured, your muscle insertions. Like, there's so many elements of genetics that come into play, but one of them is definitely response to drugs. And it's not just about how big of a guy were you as a natural, because sometimes we see guys, again, as naturals who end up taking boatloads of shit and they can't get bigger than a men's physique competitor. And that's just how it is. So with guys like Nick Walker, this guy's an example of a top tier, like open bodybuilding, like hyper responder. And we're going to get into some of his progress shots in a bit. Let's see, genetic hyper responder to gear and a fuck ton of hard training. So again, by me saying, you know, it's, you know, me implying sort of that the difference between the men's physique guys and the open guys is the response to drugs. Like, obviously this is not to discount either category's hard work. A lot of guys at the men's physique level train hard as fuck, despite the fact that, you know, a lot of open guys look down upon them because they wear board shorts and blah, blah, blah. Like, a lot of those guys are fucking huge. You know, objectively, to the layman, they're fucking massive superheroes. Obviously, to an open guy, they, you know, sometimes we'll look down on them as, you know, a little pipsqueak, but that's just like their like skewed perception of physiques at this point. Obviously, to the average person, a men's physique, IFBB Pro is a fucking specimen and a half. And a lot of them train hard as fuck, as does Nick Walker. They all train hard, or, you know, a lot of them train very hard, as does Nick. So again, when it says hyper responder to gear, do not let that take away from the fact that there's a fuck ton of hard training that goes into this. Imagine he takes creatine. Good one. All the people using buzzwords they've learned from MPMD is killing me. Yeah, crazy how incredibly subpar genetics can turn into super freaks if they're a hyper responder to gear. Legit, if you didn't know well he responded, nobody would guess he'd do well. Exactly. Now there's an argument about if he's really subpar, is he really subpar if he responds so well? Isn't one's response to drugs also a positive genetic potential in the sport? Yeah, exactly. So it's all cumulative in your hybrid, you know, potential towards becoming a top Olympian or whatever. So anyways, getting into, there's been a lot of threads about his progress, you know, because he has some of the craziest before and afters. This was 2012, 2021, night and day difference, unrecognizable to be honest. Let's see, what are they saying here? 2021 is duck eggs. I actually think 2012 he is natty, and he began taking in 2013 when he exploded in size. 2012 is natty bodybuilding in a nutshell. You can't change your genetics, bruh. People need to see these pics when they complain about having bad genetics 6 months into natty training. Typical case of what's been brought up by MPMD lately about being a hyper responder to gear. Yeah, basically. His butt in the 2021 photo is absolutely hilariously looking. What the fuck is that? Oh, well, yeah, that's what happens when you pack like 300 pounds of fucking muscle on a guy. It's gonna look like a fucking Blastoise. That's what you can expect. So anyways, getting into the guys, he posted a progress from like start to finish. Well, with exception of 2012, which is interesting because you can kind of tell where things really took off, because in 2012 is when he had this baseline shot, which is essentially nothing. And then by 2013, like it's hard to zoom in here and actually show what I'm looking at, but you can see he's packed on like 15 to 20 pounds of muscle in that first year. And then from there on after, it looks like he's consistently packed on upwards of 5 to 10 pounds of lean mass every single year until he gets to 2020. That's sort of like, in 2019 is like sort of representative of like almost, okay, he's been consistent. He's like linearly gaining the entire fucking time. The evolution of the mutant from the start until now, product of what hard work, consistency, discipline, sacrifices, and being selfish when needed will get you. Ignore the bullshit, ignore what anyone tells you, believe in yourself, fight for what you want, and get it the fuck done. So yeah, that is very motivational, but unfortunately for a lot of individuals, I'm not saying this should dissuade you from, you know, pursuing bodybuilding, but there's definitely an element of response to the drugs, not only in a hyper response aspect to how much muscle you put on per exposure, but in addition to that, the duration of exposure that your body can not only tolerate from a fatigue and organ stress aspect, but in addition to that too, and I think that's an element of genetics people overlook too. It's not just how well you grow, it's how well you can tolerate the drugs too. In addition to that, your response, how linearly you can gain. Like how many times have you seen guys at, I don't know, like men's physique level, for example, or I don't know, just there's plenty of examples in the fitness industry of guys who will bulk up, cut down, even though they're on tons of fucking shit and they're doing all the right things, they seem to just yo-yo back and forth, and it's like they've hit a fucking wall despite the fact that they're on super physiological doses of hormones. There is definitely a component of this where it is rate limiting factors on your muscularity development too. I don't know if it has to do specifically with myostatin, if it has to do with what exactly, although I did do a video on genetic variants when it comes to myostatin mutations, and I think that's an interesting watch. Gets into the mutations with Flex Wheeler and some of the other 90s pros, top Olympians, so it's a very interesting watch. One of my deeper dive videos, I recommend you check it out if you like some of the sciencey shit. But there's definitely an element of inhibiting mechanisms too. It's not just about how well you grow from the drugs, but it's also about your body's counter-regulating mechanisms to keep you from growing to unhealthy sizes. Because at the end of the day, your body knows it's not supposed to be this big. It's trying to fight back, and it's not trying to get to here. Like there are certain individuals who are able to respond this linearly for a long period of time, and they are the ones who make it to the top too. But again, is it a mix of, is it just that the individuals who don't grow like this simply are not consistent enough? Or is it the, you know, genetic thing? It's definitely both. There are some individuals who just aren't consistent, despite the fact that they'll blast shit, eat well for a sporadic period of time, but they will not do it for 8 years in a row, for example. You know, they're guys who will do all the right things for a year or 2 years maybe, and they consider that good, and they fall off the wagon, they come back, and it's like, you know, it's always 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or even 2 steps back. But with individuals like this, it's always like 1 step forward, 1 step forward, 1 step forward. Like guys like, you know, Ian Valier. I'm never going to fucking say his name right, but his first name is definitely Ian. Guys like Fouad too. Like these guys all like linearly gained, you know, a decent amount of tissue every year and did not really have a wall they hit necessarily when it came to packing on size. Now again, obviously you get to the point of, you know, where do you lose your proportions and whatnot. And, you know, I think Fouad has talked about before how he, you know, if he could go back in time, he might have just like held back at like 230 or 240 or something. But like it just goes to show, like for a guy who's able to push that boundary, like there are a lot of guys who like can't, you know what I mean? They do whatever the fuck they can from taking drugs, and they just don't respond the same, despite the fact that they're doing all the right things. So again, does this discount anything that this guy's doing? No, it's a fucking insane, very, very impressive transformation. It's awesome to see somebody, you know, new on the scene. You know, for a while, it seemed like there wasn't a lot of like up and coming talent for, I don't know, a while in the bodybuilding scene. It was kind of like Big Ramy was like the big emerging thing on the scene. And then after that, I don't know, like I'm more of a passive watcher, but like there was not like emerging fresh talent in their young to mid 20s that was like really blatantly like had potential. So it's cool to see guys like this, guys like Ian, you know, coming out of the, not the woodwork, you know, they've always been around, but starting to like realize the potential and, you know, bring a younger element to take on some of the veteran guys. Cause again, for a while, it's sort of been the same mix of dudes in the top. So what else do we have here? I had this tab open of, this was from mid 2017 to 2018. It looks like the guy packed on, holy fucking shit, over 52 pounds here. Now, again, this is not all muscle, obviously, but like, dude, he's not really like lost so much condition to the point where you'd be like, bro, like reel it the fuck back. Like this, he still has visible abs. He's still lean objectively. Like, this is insane. Like this is hyper responder. If you didn't know what it was, I love seeing these before and afters, like guys like Antoine Vaillant who like literally log their, you know, progress from start as a, you know, normal looking human to absolute freak status. Like those are like the funnest things to look at, because it's like you can actually see the difference in where a guy starts, you know, incrementally as he goes, not just, you know, the end product of the before and after. Like the incremental changes are the most interesting to see, because you can see where it really weeds out the genetic outliers in the herd of bodybuilders who are trying to achieve these, you know, same outcomes, and where guys like this really excel. And again, it comes down to consistency and just dialing in everything for like a fucking decade straight. But again, not everyone's going to replicate this. And I think you have to be cognizant if you're the guy who falls into the hyper response category or not, because it may not be worth exposing yourself to these kind of chemicals and having this kind of organ stress if you are not an individual who has the potential to be like this. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the stance I would take from this. Like, I'm not trying to dissuade anyone from bodybuilding again, but you have to be kind of like aware, at least a few years in, you know, what your potential sort of is like. Like you could tell this guy was consistently packing on tissue like a motherfucker every year at a very steady rate. It's not like, you know, he hit a wall and then thought that, you know, the magic exotic compound he's not taking, oh, the insulin is the secret, and that's why I'm gonna, you know, if you take this, then I'm gonna become a top IFBB pro. Like, no, like you can tell with these guys that they just linearly gain fucking time and time again, packing on, you know, 7 to 10 pounds of lean mass every year until they end up at their Olympia caliber level. And maybe that's not always the case, but in the individuals like this, you know, it seems pretty obvious like where the potential lies. And if he has not hit a wall, however many years in, you know, that's a special individual. So if you're not that individual and you're still grinding out regional shows, cranking grams of shit, which is, you know, a lot of guys, believe it or not, like it's not in the cards for you. And that's kind of just sort of a takeaway. But in addition to that, obviously a, you know, testament to this guy's grinding over the years and understanding that he has the potential to take it all the way and, you know, really taking advantage of it. So let's see, there was a video clip I had up a while ago. It's crazy because you can see him back in 2014. Like I'm assuming, I don't know who Ashley Aster is, but maybe it was his girlfriend at the time, prepping for 2014 Teen Nationals, wearing the OG Universal tank. This was such a fucking sick tank at the time. I remember seeing probably Antoine. I think Antoine pretty much popularized this tank for the most part. Well, there was definitely other Universal athletes. I don't mean to sell them short, but he was the one who, like, I think really made this something you'd want to wear to the gym, at least to the younger guys who like looked up to him. Yeah, damn, looking very, very like big, but like normal. You know what I mean? So crazy how far he's come. And obviously, you know, every individual comes far, but some of these guys, you know, their baseline structure, you would guess this guy's going to end up at the top. You know, this guy's going to end up with something special. But with him, again, blatant example of not necessarily the biggest dude off the bat, but a hyper responder to the compounds. Let's see, this transformation posted, oh, this was May 17th by My Sugar Daddy Is Still Controlling Me. In just 9 years, Nick was able to pack on 100 pounds of muscle to his frame. Yeah, like that's quite the fucking jump, dude. Going from this to like, Jesus Christ. In a few years, the guy is turning into a goddamn Blastoise in front of our goddamn eyes. Boom. Here we are. So anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Go check out Nick's page. He is, well, both Nick's actually, Nick Strength and Power and Nick Walker. Obviously the best bodybuilding news page, probably Nick Strength and Power, and Nick Walker, obviously a up and coming phenom. Well, already a phenom, I guess, but somebody to definitely watch out for at the O. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Like, subscribe, check out my blog, moreplacement8s.com. Follow me on Instagram at moreplacement8s, Facebook, Snapchat, BitChute, Twitter, TikTok, Apple Podcasts. If you want to support the channel, you can check out anything I'm associated with in the video description below. My TRT clinic, it's all telemedicine from the comfort of your own home. Gorilla Mind, nootropic formulas, Gorilla Mode, pre-workout formulas designed myself from scratch. My recommended lab tests and diagnostics, stay on top of your health. My recommended diet model for newbies who are getting into lifting and want a comprehensive approach to not only hitting your macronutrients, but as well as your micronutrients, being mindful of sleep hygiene, gut health, sports performance, not just gaining as much muscle as possible, but actually remaining an athletic human. These are all considered in the diet model in the video description below. And anything else I'm associated with, it's all in the video description below. Thank you guys for watching. Talk to you soon.